Welcome back to the Student Hub Live. In this session, we're going to talk about when it may not go to plan, which very, very often happens as an OU student. That might be because you don't have a plan. It might be because your plan has some holes in it, or it might be because life gets in the way. So we're going to discuss those various different scenarios. I'm joined by Finley Games and also Adrian Steele, who are both OU students, to talk about their experiences. And of course, HJ and Simon are on our hot desk. How's everyone at home?
We're doing well. We're talking about calendars, and we absolutely loved the video that played earlier with Anne talking through some study tips and seeing her study space as well, because it looked really organised.
She is super organised.
I
love it.
We won't let anyone take pictures of our offices. It
No.
does not look the same as that. But I've been trying to get some study tips, and one of the ones I did here is that sometimes when people are studying, they'll listen to a particular piece of music, or they wear a certain item of clothing. So I'm trying this hat out as my focus hat, so hopefully things go a lot more focused from here.
People might
We'll see
avoid
how
you
it
with
goes.
that, I suppose.
They might do, but actually I feel quite good.
Especially if you were in a coffee shop or something, they'd probably say, well, clear.
For you, it's hat. For me, it's shoes. I like
Shoes?
Yeah, shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Go
like
and
the
show us
shoes
your
today.
shoes, Simon, because they're actually pretty cool.
What? Sorry.
Show us your shoes.
Oh, my shoes.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Don't knock the plants over.
I'll just put that back. I'll put that back. It's fine. It's. I'll just put that. There you go.
Yellow shoes. Perfect.
Yes.
And completely wasted under the desk.
Yeah,
So,
I know. But there we are.
okay, first topic of conversation is about time to study, because often I think we think, yep, the time's right. People have been saying that. But Finley, you said there's never an ideal time to start studying. So how'd that work for you?
There is never an ideal time, is there? You always think you've got a good point in your life where this is it, and something always happens.
Yeah.
I'd just started a recovery programme, was doing quite well, so I thought I would start studying. It felt like the ideal time. Started, things seemed to be great, and then I realised I was transgender and came out, and that threw a huge spanner in the works, because then, of course, I had appointments, surgeries, and all of that to work around my studies. So my best laid plan suddenly went out the window, and I had to make it up as I went along and work out everything else around my studies, which was quite tricky at times.
So what did you do?
I spoke to some tutors and I got some help, because at first I thought, I just can't do this right now. But with the flexibility, I was able to, a couple of times I've banked scores and come back to a module. Other times I've just got extensions on my TMAs if I've needed to. Or sometimes it's just been a bit of reassurance if I felt a bit behind because of things going on. And I'd speak to a tutor and just get a little bit of help that way, just to feel reassured and get some tips on how I could possibly get a little bit ahead, or just read what I needed for a particular TMA. It's workable with flexibility. Yeah. It is all workable.
So I guess from going from a stage of thinking everything's cool, I'm going to have this perfect life ahead of me, to then everything not being so cool, you had that sort of uncertainty, but on top of all of that, you had different other people's commitments and things. So you might have a phone call saying, right, we can now fit you in for an appointment, for example.
I was on call all the time for surgery. That's the way it works. So I never knew when it was going to happen. So I always had to kind of always think a little bit ahead of myself. So I'd commonly do the reading for the TMA, and so all the hard stuff was done first, so that if I did get a call for surgery, in recovery I could do the lighter stuff like the background reading, and so I'd often do things backwards or whatever suited at the time. So yeah, it was difficult, but it's only because if I'd been at a bricks and mortar uni, it wouldn't have worked at all. But with the flexibility, it meant that I could just change
and how
what
did
I
that
did.
sit with you, this idea of doing things back to front, as you say?
Not great. I like a plan. I love the way they look. I love how it all looks fabulous. I'm quite a perfectionist, and I've actually learnt a great deal about myself in studies, in actually letting go of that side of myself a little bit, and realising that my best is good enough at any time. You know, you don't always have to do all the reading. You can't always do all the reading, and so it's just doing your best, whatever that is, on a daily basis, and you get through and you catch up, and it's fine.
HJ and Simon, you haven't.
Yes. Well, you know, someone said you can't see the shoes, so
all right.
So they handed me this.
It suits you.
Okay.
I'm a bit jealous now. Mine's not as tidy.
No,
but on the offices, someone called Ray Foley has joined the chat and said they can't usually enter Karen's office because you can normally tell when they've been in it.
Ray, right.
Somebody else was talking about. Someone else was talking about. Hayley was mentioning the fact that she has an illness that comes and goes, and so that's very difficult to plan for. I mean, I think that's very difficult to work around. And I think that's probably, I mean, what Finlay was saying about, where things don't go to plan. If you've got something in, like, I don't know, you're having your tonsils out on a Thursday, you can kind of factor that one in. But I think if you've got that sort of coming and going type of thing.
Someone mentioned to me recently, actually, that flexibility is still a plan. And I hadn't thought about it like that, but it is. I have an overview about what I need to do in that module. That is my plan. How I go about it en route changes, but the overall plan is still there. So even though it might look different, it's still a plan. Whether it's a flexible plan or a set in stone plan, it's a plan, and it's a plan that works for you, isn't it?
Now, we've asked everyone to fill in our widgets at home, so do you expect your study plans to go smoothly? Yes, no, or unsure. And also some of our word clouds as well. This is where we need 3 things, so if you can only think of 1 or 2, that's fine. Just put a full stop in, otherwise the computer will say no and not submit your results. So we'd like to know when things don't go to plan, what do you do? And how will you know that your study's going to plan, which I think is that very interesting point as well, and this whole idea of thinking about your end goal sometimes matters more than the route to it. Adrian, things were a little bit different for you though, weren't they?
Yeah, I've not really had health issues or anything like that. When I first started, it was more because of being a little bit older, sort of worrying about whether it was worth doing it at all. So you get through the first module, and then after that, it's a case of, you're going to be putting yourself into debt, and getting older. And is it kind of worth doing it? But I carried on and finished, and it is worth doing it. So
Yeah. Okay. No, that's brilliant. We asked everyone at home whether they expect their plans to go smoothly. 41% said no. I think it's brilliant. 41% were unsure, and 19% said yes. So that's great. So some people, I guess, anticipating that things may not go to plan. So what do you do then? This is the interesting question. So let's take a look at what you said when we asked when things don't go to plan. Panic is the big word here, right in the middle. Contact your tutor, which is a very, very sensible thing to do, eminently sensible. Procrastinate, write another plan, which is a great idea as well. Take time out, have a cuppa, take a break, go for a walk. Breathe, feel sad, get anxious, change, worry, just make it up, learn it, step back, reschedule, think. Some brilliant things here. Think about jobs that I can do. I gather myself, I allocate more time, go for a walk, which is a brilliant idea, take a break, evaluate. Still loads of ideas come through. Eat chocolate, which can be good, but in moderation, I suppose. Cry, change, try again, get help. So lots and lots of things here. Get annoyed, interesting. What do you think of that, both of you?
I like the top one, be flexible. And I think this is what you were saying, flexibility in your study is really important.
Yeah.
Someone had written on there, write another plan,
Yeah.
which is perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
This hasn't got a plan. That's okay.
Yeah.
You've got a plan B and
Yeah.
a plan C.
And probably
You
no
know.
one else has seen the plan except you.
Exactly. Yes, it doesn't matter, does it? It really doesn't matter. But don't panic. It's fine. It really
it's okay
is.
to change your plan.
Yeah. And I think it's this whole idea about what planning means to us as people, because very often, we think of a plan and it might be a detailed plan. Everyone will have a study planner, which has things to do in a linear order each week, which it doesn't work so well for me because I'm always going to be cleaning my office, which I never do. But what does a plan then mean to you? You mentioned that you sort of like the idea of things, but it doesn't always go that way.
Every week I do a schedule. Every week I don't follow it. That's the truth. But I always have my wall planner. I have to know what's due in when, because they're obviously key dates. So then I know I can work around that the rest of the time. So that's what my plan looks like, an overview. So then I can work out how I am, where I'm at en route. So I do have a schedule for each week where I'm put in, where I know I've got some spare hours. But most of the time, a plan to me is one that I can move around. It's there, but the inside of it, I can swap as I need.
Yeah, I think it has to be flexible. And I think most people would probably do it in a similar kind of way because you have to do it that way.
Because you had 2 modules. You had one starting in October and then you had another one starting in February, didn't you?
When I first started, yes. The very first module I did was massively reduced in price, so it was a no-brainer to do it. it was the next module, which was full price. This is when you start having doubts about, is it really, is it worth doing? What's the point? But I did. I mean, I quit it. Originally, I quit the module because the doubts got the better of me. I left it for maybe about a month, started really beating myself up for not doing it, not giving myself a chance, and then retook it the following year. So, yeah.
You said when we were talking earlier about this being sort of outside your comfort zone, and I guess there's something about your own expectations and about what you were trying to achieve, and perhaps this bigger module feeling a bit more out of that comfort zone.
Because I've gone through my life without a degree. So when you start doing a degree, especially something like a science degree, I mean, it's not going to be easy.
No.
So, and you're getting older as well, and you think, well, even if I get the degree, even if I finish it, because there's always a thought of failure as well.
I was just going to say, you mentioned what's the point, but I was wondering if there was more to it than that, about can I do it maybe?
Yeah, which is the reason I went back to it, is because I felt that I wasn't giving myself a chance.
Yeah.
I wasn't being fair to myself. So I went back to it, retook it. And then it is very much the flexibility after that, because you just think, well, I'll do the next one. And then I'll do the next one, and then I'll do the next one. And before you know it, it's like, oh, well, I've only got 2 left, so I may as well finish. But
Yeah.
It's that amazing feeling, is it, when you complete one, you're like,
Yeah,
actually, I've
every
done
time
that, I'm
you
all
finish
right.
one,
yeah.
I could do another one then.
Yeah.
I've done
I'll
another
keep
one.
winging
I'll do
it.
another
No,
one.
no, no.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Sometimes you think, oh, am I just winging it? Of course you're not. You're passing
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
You're not winging it. You're doing amazingly well.
Yeah, and then it all builds, and you get that confidence towards the end once you realise you are doing it. Okay, let's see what people said when we asked how will you know whether your studies are going to plan. So what are the key things that tell you you're on track? Study planner right in the middle here. Knowing I've done my best, keeping to deadlines, your tutor, good grades. If I'm ahead, re-evaluating, submitting TMAs, I feel okay. It's going to plan, getting good marks. The level that you're at is important for people, that they're glad about it. Reflection, really important. Talking to tutors, go smoothly. When things go smoothly, I'm on track. Keeping to the deadlines, enjoying study. So really, really key things there. And not feeling stressed and looking at feedback. Feeling proud of yourself, that's really important. So applying the learning and all sorts of things there. So there's something in there about knowing that things are going well because you're passing, you're achieving what I guess you're supposed to be achieving. But also there's a lot of emotions there as well. HJ and nice hats.
Is it different?
Yes, and are you thinking differently with different hats is what I want to know.
That's it.
Definitely.
My other hat was one for focus.
Yeah.
This one is for creative thinking, I reckon.
Right.
I'm not too sure if it kind of suits the hat, so any suggestions about what this one can be for would be appreciated.
I think this is another one that just echoes my shoes. So, yes.
All this will fit in really nicely with our next session on creative note taking.
That's it.
But I hope you're not distracting everyone at home. I bet no one at home is sitting there putting on different hats.
Well, we could find out if
Yes, let's
home
see.
would like to
What
send in a
hat are you
photo.
wearing? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
But we've had some great comments about some of the things that have been happening while people are studying. So Samantha says, my son has a condition that lands us in long hospital stays. So she utilises the OU Anywhere app, which is a great resource because wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can access study and keep going with whatever going on as well. And with things like that, contacting your tutor or your student support team to let them know what's going on, they can always offer advice about how to keep on track as well.
I mean, there's some inspiring stuff here. Somebody was talking about doing OU studying around dialysis, and I'd just like to say, as somebody who has had no such things, I'm in awe of that. That's just amazing. Some people are worried about being good enough. That's their biggest worry, and I'd echo that. I take TMAs too personally. So, and I love this comment from Anne, which is somebody said, I think it was her husband said to her, you'll be 53 when you finish this. Is it worth it? And she said, I'll be 53 anyway, but it's whether I've got a degree or not. And yes, exactly. And you will have that degree, Anne. So.
Bravo.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of talk about age, isn't there? That can be a real issue for a lot of people.
Yes, yes. Well,
Yeah.
I've just beaten my son. He's now starting university. I'm finishing. So
It's not a challenge, Simon.
Exactly. You see, I just like to say that because if he ever, he might suggest that I'm old, but I got my degree first.
And of course, now you've got a degree, you've got a pretty good handle on arguments, so that's handy.
Yes, exactly.
Because Adrian, it was similar for you about the age thing you were talking about. But I wonder if you can also tell us about the time that your computer had an issue, because you were sort of talking to me about things and you were saying, well, actually, I haven't had that many big things happening. I've been pretty normal and stuff. But something, can throw a real spanner in the works that I know for me, like computer issues, just send me over the edge if I'm having a bad day.
Yeah, I think that's, it happens really. I've tried to get through all of my studies using the same computer.
Yeah.
I really did not want to have to buy another one. I've changed the operating system. I knew that by the end of this year, that's it, that computer's gone. I'm going to have to get another one. At the beginning of this year, I had 2 modules crossing over. Very stressful time.
Yeah.
And I had to use some software that we downloaded on the one module that just wouldn't work. So I ended up having to buy a new computer, getting everything swapped over. It's the last thing you want to be doing when you've got, the end of one module, beginning of another one. So yeah, the stress levels go up to here.
Yeah.
But it's just another thing that you deal with on your way through, really.
And this is the important thing, I think, that people don't often realise, is that one person's stress can be just as extreme as another person's stress, even though they're about completely different things. Absolutely. You both could have been a 10 out of 10 about completely different areas, but it still would matter to you, and it's still really, really valid, and it can still interrupt your study. I think so often we think, that's fine with somebody who's studying through dialysis. That matters more than me because I'm having a bad day and I've got to have a deal with a Windows update or something, which does happen.
The smallest little thing can just upset a whole day. I mean, I've had really good days, and then for some reason a TMA won't send, there's a problem with a Word document, and I can have been in a fine mood 1 minute, the next minute it's all gone, it's all a disaster, I'm going to fail, and I'm just, where did this escalate? And it can happen, and it's the smallest little things. It's all relative, no matter what it is. If it's affecting you, it's valid, and we all have our own
things
little
you don't
things.
need right at the moment, you don't need them, and you can guarantee something will happen.
Yeah.
It's always when you least need it, isn't it?
Yeah. And that may not have even been in your plan. That's just something you take for granted, you know?
Yeah, you think, technology's going to work, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, or you don't even think it won't. Okay, great. Are there any other questions and things that we need to cover, HJ and Simon?
Well, we're just talking about chocolate, so that's, I think we've got that up on the hierarchy there.
Yes,
so
we
that's
do.
good. Yes, and somebody's just mentioned other halves bringing you chocolate, and I think having support of those around you when it goes wrong is...
Well, I think Hayley's got the right idea with her husband bringing her tea and fudge, is it?
Oh, yes,
That's
definitely.
it. Yes.
We had a session on buying from friends and family, getting them to bring you tea and chocolate. That's definitely
I don't think we meant buying like that, but financial, fudge and tea and coffee, that will also
absolutely,
help. Yeah.
absolutely. Find somebody to feed you while you study. That's a top study
I
tip.
think Genevieve has a great suggestion for the hats. She's got the idea that we should have party hats to celebrate all the birthdays, because there's people in the chat that are celebrating big birthdays this year alongside the OU, and Karen's birthday as well. So everyone in the chat is saying happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
And they want to celebrate it. So everyone's getting their party hats ready, Karen.
You see, my birthday's a little birthday, a very small one. But I love being here, actually, so I'm really happy.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. What have you brought for our hierarchy of needs of students?
I have brought in the transgender flag. I think in your studying, it's really important that you have your community, and I'm a big believer in community. I also want to mention we have our own LGBT network within the OU, Plexus, which I really highly recommend people join. But I've got a number of friends who are transgender and also study, and the fact that we understand each other, we understand that the issues we go through, problems of being gendered correctly, having to talk to tutors and explain things, surgery, it's really important to find your tribe. The people who can support each other and get it. So for that reason, I brought in the trans flag to represent community.
Thank you.
Very important.
We should drape that.
Yes, I'm going to try and
appropriately
drape it.
at a time. Well, I wouldn't bother. I think we need sellotape, sticky tape,
Okay,
probably
for
some
now
of
I
Adrian Simon's paper
shall drape
clips.
it here.
Yeah, we'll put it up nicely. Okay, that's been an absolutely brilliant session. Thank you so much for giving us so much food for thought and very different perspectives as well, Finley and Adrian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to come back in our next session are to look at creative note taking. I really like this idea because when I was an OU student, I had this book and I wanted to take all my notes in linear order, which I never quite got around to doing. And it was only when I started figuring out that actually what worked for me was taking notes on the back of recycled paper and then highlighting them, that I was able to then take notes. So I'm really looking forward to what Jay's got to say, because the sketchnoting is the next big thing. So you're going to enjoy this next session, I hope. But our next session is about studying with kids. So for those of you who are trying to get the little ones into bed, hopefully this will give you some interesting ideas as well. I'll see you for that next session very soon.